For Adam and myself really, the primary school experience was hell, is the only word to describe it. Most days he came home extremely agitated, and 2 or 3 times every week I was called into the school to be told some dreadful thing that Adam had done. Fighting with other children, running away, running out of class, hiding under tables, throwing chairs around in class, just really a complete nightmare. And that was pretty much from reception all the way through to year 4. And I know from other who have told me the strategy for Adam at Larkswood was to sit him outside in the corridor on a separate desk and a separate chair with paper and pencils, and he was out in the corridor unsupervised, just to keep him out of the class and keep him out of trouble and keep him from, in their words, disrupting the lesson. So for Adam, the whole experience of coming to school was dreadful. I knew, as his mother, that he was very different from my other 2 children and other children I knew. He was not my only child, so I did have experience. I knew he was very different, and there was something. I had no experience of autism, so I didn't know what it was. I just knew he was very different, and he had a different way of looking at things. You know, the world was different to Adam. But I gradually got to understand what to do just by being his mum and being with him all the time. But after, I think he was about 5 and 6, I started looking into it and pushing and going to the doctor and asking for help. And then actually nothing to do with that, a friend said to me, I think he's somewhere on the autistic spectrum. So I then started asking those questions and finally got referred to a clinic in Walthamstow. But it took 2 years of appointments before they said he was 8 when they diagnosed him, and they said yes, he's high functioning autistic, and we call that Asperger syndrome. So I then had a name for it and a piece of paper saying this is what he was diagnosed with, and he was 8, so it took a long time. He moved into year 5. I was quite hopeful because as that happened, a new head came to the school, and obviously he was going to have a new class teacher as well, so that was always, I was hopeful with a new class teacher it would be better, and it never was. But this time there was going to be a new head as well as a new class teacher, so I really did think, right, this is the time, I need to have a clean slate for Adam, let's try and get through to these new people, that this child needs some help with school. And had some meetings, and I have to say not much happened, but Mrs. Harrowell had just come to the school, and I understand there were an awful lot of problems in the school. It wasn't just mine and Adam's problems with the school, there were all kinds of other issues going on, and I understand that. But to give her her due, I think by the January she had listened and she had read his huge file, and I had a meeting with her where she did actually say that this school has failed Adam. Oh, sorry, it makes me cry even now. But she said, this school has failed Adam, but I'm going to turn it around for him. Oh, sorry.
Do you want to stop?
No, it's fine. And she did. She did. And by January, she had contacted Ascend and got all sorts of wonderful people in. And from then on, I have to say, it really did turn around. It really did. For me, actually the best thing was to speak to someone who understood what Adam was all about. And I know from Lynn's point of view, she had looked it all up, and she had quite a lot of knowledge by then about Asperger's and how that was in children at school and what could be done to support them. But for her to be talking along those lines, and for all the people from Ascend to be saying, yes, we know, we understand, and this is what can be done, and this is what can be done to help. It was just marvellous. It was like, for me, like, wow, like there are people who want to help my child. It was just brilliant, just brilliant. I was on just such a high then I mean, nothing really was any different for Adam, but I was on such a high to think some things can be done, and it looks like they're going to be done. And honestly, from year 5 all the way through to the end of year 6, it really changed for Adam, and he was a different child, to the point where people at home, his grandparents, were saying, you know, Adam's really different now, and he really seems to have calmed down, and he's really growing up. Well, of course he was doing all of those things, but the major thing that was happening was school had stopped being the complete nightmare for him that it had been for 5 years, and he was actually starting to, I probably would use the word enjoy going to school. The immediate help, I think, was that he had teaching assistants with him in class who were trained in autistic children, and they were brilliant. And for him, having that person by his side throughout the day, even in the playground at break time, they sort of went out with him, was exactly what he needed, because he needed that support constantly. You know, all the time he was at school, he needed that support. And he got it. He had some wonderful ladies who I just so grateful for, because they really changed his life. They really did. And I'm sure, and I think I've been told stories, initially it was quite difficult with him, but they've said to me, as time went on and Adam sort of relaxed a bit and allowed himself to be helped and got to trust them, they just saw a different child emerge, and it, you know, that must have been great for them to know that they're doing such a good job and see the difference in that child. But certainly for Adam, it was just a whole new world. For all the teachers at the school, there was some kind of training evening, I think, where they all had training on what to look for in the Asperger's child at school and what to do about it. And I think a lot of the teachers here had never had anything like that, and that was immensely helpful, because of course Adam did wander around the building, and whereas before teachers would just shout at him and he'd be in trouble for doing something, once they all had that awareness, I think there was a more understanding from the rest of the staff, not just his class teacher, that, oh, Adam's the one with Asperger's and he's running down the corridor, but maybe we'll just find his teaching assistant and let them know so they can deal with it. And that was much better than him being shouted at. Initially, I think, from when it first changed and he had a teaching assistant with him, I think the first one he had was Brenda, who was marvellous. But I remember with Adam, the first week, he hated Brenda. He was kind of, why have I got this lady with me? Why is she with me everywhere? Why does she follow? His words were, why does she follow me everywhere at school? And it was quite funny, actually, because first 3 days I thought, oh, this is not going to work. This Ascend people have put this wonderful teaching assistant in place for him, and he hates her, so it's not going to work. But I think by the end of the first week, he was coming home and saying, Brenda says this and Brenda says that, and Brenda says I did really well today, and I had real fun with Brenda, and Brenda came and played basketball with me at break time, and he loved her. From the end of the first week, he loved her. So it really made a difference to him. He had kind of a friend with him in class just to tell him what to do, because he really didn't know what was supposed to happen in class. Well, he'd spent his first 4 years in the corridor, so he did need that. And I think that was the big change for him, that he finally understood, with that person supporting him, what he was supposed to do at school. And then he could see if he did those things, he didn't get shouted at anymore. So that was the change. Other parents all the way through primary had shunned me, really, as the parent with that naughty boy called Adam. I'm a big girl, I could shrug that off. But I think there's definitely a relationship between a parent's attitude and their child. And I think other children came home obviously with stories of what Adam did. Adam ran away, Adam locked himself in a cupboard, Adam threw a chair today. And quite rightly, parents were concerned and were complaining about Adam at school, and it was all very nasty. It was basically all very nasty towards Adam and towards me. No one spoke to me, and I'm sure no one spoke to Adam. He never invited to a party. He was never invited to anyone's house. You know, we were shunned by children and parents. And after Ascend did the work they did, and I think the class teacher was very on board with that, and she spent a lot of time talking to the children while Adam was out doing something else about some children have difficulties, we should be kind, we should try and understand. I mean, that was brilliant, and I think there was a definite turn around with some, not all, some children in the class to be a bit more understanding with Adam and give him a bit of a break and maybe give him a chance. And I think from that spread to the parents, because I think it was probably in year 6 actually, the one and only time he did get invited to someone's house for tea, and it was just, you know, and I think that was the shift. The children have started accepting Adam more, so the parents have started to, oh well, okay, you know, if you want Adam to be your friend, that's okay, kind of thing. So yeah, there was a definite shift. It's a shame it didn't happen till year 5, because he kind of missed such a lot of primary school, but I'm so relieved it happened for him in year 5, because he had year 5 and year 6 fitting in better, and that's given him such a good basis to move up to secondary school.